This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
EmberTech.
Same mood every day, which is what you want at this time of the year. You know, obviously locked in. Practices have been good. Game plan execution's been good. I thought we got a little loose in Game 4 on some things we've been really good at, so we need to go back and look at tightening that up.
Finchie almost sounds a little cocksure in that particular soundbite. Was that from today or yesterday?
That was practice yesterday.
Interesting. Jonny Athletic, always cocksure about the Timberwolves, is filing a live report from Los Angeles, California, where tonight the Wolves have a chance to basically end Luka's first season, or half season, in Los Angeles, California, and LeBron's season as well. Johnny joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline. Is the head coach, is he starting to feel it a little bit?
I mean, I think a little bit, Dan. I can tell you, and I think I mentioned this before the series started, but the Wolves, from their coaching staff, their executives, their players, went into this series extremely confident in the matchup. Now, they were obviously respectful of Luka Doncic and LeBron James and the possibilities that those two had to just kind of take this thing over. But now through 4 games, they have played exceedingly well in a lot of those games, and it still hasn't been enough, generally speaking. And so I do believe that nothing has changed, and maybe they even feel a little bit better going into Game 5, just about, hey, if the Wolves play their game, if they stay within themselves, they are the better team, and they will come out on top, whether it's tonight or Game 6 or Game 7 or whatever. They just feel like they're better than the Lakers.
In La La Land, I don't know if you've had much of a chance to get their end of it, but I know you pay attention to both teams. Have we gotten any sort of sense of or willingness to say, my God, we really do need to try to use a couple of players for 4 minutes here or there? Or is it doubling down on, we've had bad, I think the quote from the head coach is, we've had bad fourth quarters, no matter who we've had out there. So that really didn't have, the fact that we played 5 the entire second half didn't have really much to do with how it went down the stretch. Are they doubling down on, we may well do that again?
It seems like Redick is at least leaving open the option or the possibilities to do that again. He certainly did not, give in any kind of ground that, yes, that's why we lost because of fatigue or anything like that. What I can tell you is that a lot of the conversation locally in LA about that strategy has been critical. They saw Luka Doncic with his hands on his knees. They saw LeBron James going 0 for 2, and they are certainly drawing the conclusion that it was a failed strategy. I, in particular, understand why Redick did it, but I do also believe that the viewpoint here is that even if it had worked, it's not a strategy that is sustainable over these last 3 games. These guys are getting worn down. They were worn down in Game 1, let alone when they get to Game 5, 6, or 7. It could very much be like the Nuggets were last year in the playoffs, and they just ran out of gas in that second half of Game 7. So I think there's real concern about that strategy just in terms of if it works one time, okay, but that's not the way to beat the Timberwolves going forward.
You suggest via The Athletic, and by the way, with help from a very intrepid and loyal listener, I might now have the formula to stop double subscribing to The Athletic. More on that later. I think she found it, because I couldn't get help from you or Russo on it. In this case, it's a customer. So there you have it. I hope you don't feel too guilty.
Yeah, well, I'll be knocking on your door for food down the stretch here, Dan. So just feel good about yourself for that. That's great. My kids are not going to eat.
It's my conscience. Right. I guess I have to live with it. You suggest that Naz Reid is the Wolves' barometer against the Lakers. Why?
Yeah, in a way, just because I think that he presents so many matchup problems for them that if he is having a good game, if he's knocking down shots from outside, if he's getting to the basket, they don't have an answer. And so Jaden McDaniels has been great. Anthony Edwards has been great. But what we have seen in this series is that Naz Reid has been great in the fourth quarters of games, and that is why one of the big reasons why they are outlasting the Lakers is they can go smaller with Naz Reid and Julius Randle in the front court to face the Lakers' small lineup. But then the Lakers have so many defensive liabilities that if Naz is rolling offensively, they don't have enough thumbs to put in the dam. Because if you're paying attention, you're loading up on Anthony Edwards, then you got to hide Reeves on Naz Reid. You're loading up on Naz Reid. Reeves has got to shift out to Jaden McDaniels and Luka and like all these. So Naz is such a weapon at all levels of the offense that it just makes it really difficult for the Lakers to find any kind of an answer for the Wolves' global offense when he is rolling that way. And it's just been critical. I think the Wolves are plus 36 in the fourth quarter of this series. And Naz is 9 for 10 from the field, 6 for 6 from three. He's just been outstanding, and the Lakers can't deal with him.
It's interesting because, I think that makes good sense. And as you say, we talked about this, I think, last time you were on, which I think was Monday, that, again, down the stretch, Rudy has come out, last two games at least, and in the case of the most recent game, Naz had not played well, as you say, and nevertheless, Finchie doubled down on bringing him in, and he was obviously a very big factor down the stretch as well. Your guy Barkley is getting some Laker shots in. It sounds like he's getting ESPN shots in and is ripping the Lakers because of a belief that he thinks many of the ESPN talking heads are way too seduced by La La Land, by the Laker names, etc. The Lakers, I told you 6 weeks ago, the Lakers aren't a good team. They got two really, really good players, but they're not a good team. ESPN just swings on them like everything tastes like chicken. But the Lakers are not a good team. They're going to lose either this round or the next round, but more likely this round. So I agree and disagree with Barkley because part of his stubbornness got a little crazy where he wouldn't even acknowledge that they had a good regular season record, which they won 50, right? They did have a good regular season record, and he was making it sound like they basically played 500 basketball the whole season. But I do think, and you're I think well aware of this as well, that there is a tendency. I don't want to do small market, big market thing because I tend to mock a lot of that. But I do think there is that built-in fascination. Lakers, the sexy name, the big history. You got LeBron, and then you add Luka, and people do get lost in it sometimes to the point where it does seem to kind of affect their analysis in comparing the Lakers to pretty much any other team, certainly including the Wolves.
Yeah, 100%, Dan. And I'm going to paint with a broad brush because there are certainly great people over there that don't get seduced by it, the Windhorsts of the world and several others that are there. But in general, there is no disputing that ESPN, ABC, the largest television partner of the NBA, along with TNT, but ESPN's even bigger because they talk about it all day long and do all of these other things where TNT is just kind of a couple of nights a week. But ESPN is absolutely in bed with the Lakers and needs to have them go further or has a vested interest in them going further because they're such a big audience, because, a lot of their stuff is in LA, because it's LeBron and Luka, and because so much of their analysis and so many of their shows are geared toward what are the Lakers doing, good or bad. And that is an absolute real criticism that Charles Barkley has leveled against them a lot. And it's founded. It's not some sort of kind of conspiracy theory, feeling kind of less than by us in the Midwest. It's real. Like they absolutely put way more resources and way more attention into the Lakers than other places, than other teams, including the Timberwolves. That said, I'm not in agreement with Barkley. If the Wolves win, especially if they win in 5, you beat Luka and LeBron in 5 games or 6 or 7. That is an accomplishment. I do believe that the Lakers are a flawed team, and certainly that the ESPN, some people at ESPN overlooked a lot of their flaws, especially when they're facing the little Minnesota Timberwolves and didn't see, some of the things that were going to be real problems for them. But it's still ultimately 2 just incredible players. And if you have those 2, you should be in it. And so the Wolves deserve a lot of credit so far for handling it the way that they have. And if they do close this out, I don't think there's minimizing it to a huge degree. You beat Luka and LeBron like this, that's incredibly impressive work.
So I think I asked you Monday what moves the Lakers might make, and I believe your answer was, well, I'm not really sure personnel-wise there's a hell of a lot much that they can do, quite frankly. Let me ask it this way. What about the Wolves? Because we always make the assumption that if you win, you don't have to really do anything. But in fact, smart teams do add wrinkles or maybe make a couple of adjustments. They still try to stay on the offensive. Is it for the Wolves, in your mind, just keep doing what you're doing, or is there something else that you think we might see if this team really is trying to take them out without extending this series, take them out in L.A. tonight?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, real quickly on the Lakers, there is an interesting little development, Dan, where Maxi Kleber was upgraded to questionable for tonight's game. He hasn't played since the trade. He came over with Luka from Dallas, and he is a bigger guy who can shoot the ball. And, it would be asking a lot for him to get back into it after a couple of months off and play at a higher level. But that would at least be one more body that they may be willing to try. That will be a little bit of a wrinkle. So I'm watching that and see what happens with that. But from a Wolves perspective, I do think it was interesting, the sound clip that you played from Chris Finch at practice, just saying that, there are things that they can tighten up on. And I do believe that a lot of it is defensively, especially at the start of the third quarter in Game 4, where they tried to throw some doubles at Luka, and that really didn't work. They got really kind of blown out there. It was 11-0 or 13-0 to start the third quarter. And so I think there are things like that, execution-wise, things that they can do defensively, because they had held the Lakers under 100 for the first 3 games, and the Lakers had, 113 in Game 4. So I do think that there's going to be a renewed focus on the defensive end, on executing the different looks that they are throwing at Luka, much better than they did in Game 4. They were definitely disenchanted about how easy the Lakers had it in some respects, especially at the start of the third quarter.
I'm going to ask you something that's going to really terrify the producer of this program. I'm going to ask you a question that is based on the notion that the Wolves are going to advance, that they sooner or later are going to knock off the Lakers. And part of my inspiration is
Gary Anderson hadn't missed in 2 years. Just remember that.
That's a good point. Something that you said, Johnny, earlier in this conversation about the way the Wolves felt internally before the playoffs began in terms of who they were going to be matched up against. Do you, forget the team, do you believe that if the Wolves are ultimately matched up against Golden State, that the Warriors will present a much stiffer challenge than the Lakers, the same challenge, less of a challenge?
I think they're certainly light years ahead of them defensively. The Warriors are. With Draymond, with Jimmy Butler, with Gary Payton, they have more tools defensively at their disposal to make things difficult on the Wolves offense than the Lakers do. They are still, though, one of those teams that plays small. And so I still think there are going to be opportunities, if that matchup happens, for the Wolves to use their size to their advantage. And if it did get to that point, and I am with Guardsy, I'm a little reluctant to kind of even go that far down the road when you are facing Luka and LeBron and the series is not over. But for the sake of this discussion, if it did get to that point, Wolves versus Warriors, I would like the Wolves in the series I know that the Timberwolves are hoping that the Rockets can extend that series and make it a deep and physical one. But the Rockets are a better matchup, I think, for the Wolves, and the Warriors would cause more problems, but I still like the Wolves in that matchup.
RBC Wealth Management brings us Jonny Athletic to you each and every week. We started the program with a discussion on the asininity that took place in Indianapolis, Indiana last night. And you're the perfect person to ask about this because I actually thought that what took place with Giannis and John Halliburton, Tyrese's father, was a blessing because I've sensed that we've been edging closer and closer to family members thinking they're the story, relatives thinking they're the story, thinking they should have access to go wherever they want to go at any point. And that maybe this will cause an awakening, a realignment of we can't have anything close to what took place in this situation. And quite frankly, a situation that I'm convinced could have been a lot worse if it wasn't Giannis who was the person approached, because I think he tends to handle these things better than maybe, let's say, a Bobby Portis would have or perish the thought of Draymond Green would. So what did you make of the on-court nonsense afterwards? And is there a realignment needed on this whole issue of parents and family members and hangers-on understanding that it's not about them? After a game like that, in that situation, on the court, it should not be about them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in total agreement with you, Dan, that there needs to be a market correction on this thing, and I think this was inevitable. Something like this was inevitable given the trends in this sort of player-parent organization relationship because, we have seen it firsthand with John Morant and his dad. And then, even like Karl Anthony Towns' dad, who I love to death and I think has done nothing wrong, in the way that he supports his son. But in that Memphis series, it kind of became a comedy routine with Towns, Big Karl and T. Morant kind of sitting courtside and becoming the story.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of parents, it's not unique for parents to live vicariously through their children, but it is unique now, the attention that is coming from that on social media, on, TV, all of those things. And I've written a million stories about parents and their kid, the athletes that cover their parents and all that. So, but it's a different level when you get that social media shine and then you feel like you are playing alongside your son. Right. And I think that's what happened with John Halliburton, and that's got to stop. Absolutely. It was ridiculous, and I would not have blamed Giannis in the moment for slugging the guy.
Correct.
Someone walks right up on you in the middle of all this chaos. You don't know who it is, and you don't know what he's coming at, and all that. So, yes, I hope that this is an opportunity to remind so many people that, look, you are not the story, your kid is. And the only thing you can do is embarrass and bring shame upon your family and your child by acting this way. And take
it away from the story, which was a historic comeback to wrap up the series. Comeback. I mean, there'd never been a comeback like that in the last 20 years in the playoffs, down 7 with 40 seconds or less to go. And that should have been the story. It was so brazen. In fact, I thought Giannis looked almost stunned. He just stood there like a statue. Yeah. Before he even, I think, realized who it was, he's going, I can't believe this is happening right in front of me. He's approaching me with a stupid, terrible towel that says whatever and bleep you, and this is what we bleep and do. Mm-hmm. By the way, wrapping up a first-round series win.
Yeah. And my other thing about this, Dan, is I try to put myself in their shoes. Look, my kids are just little kids. They're playing sports, but I'm at after all their games. I'm getting into it. But if I'm in that spot, and Giannis played amazing all series, and so all I would want to do in that situation, if I had the opportunity, was go up and shake his hand. And be like, man, you were unbelievable. And be so proud of my son for overcoming one of the all-time greats and doing everything that he did. But it would be so much pride and so much just like, Giannis, you conduct yourself the right way. You are an unbelievable player. You did this. You had the Bucks on your back the whole series. It was incredible. It was a joy to watch you, and I just feel privileged that we were in the same building, that my son was on the same floor. That's my sentiment in that situation.
Absolutely.
I'm not getting up there and talking trash to a 7'1", 260-pound dude, and just what you know of is one of the great statesmen in this sport. Like no one has a bad word to say about Giannis. Like you said, if it was Draymond, could I see and he had been, and the way he talked
agitating
about Cat, could I see Big Carl come through and be like really, really upset and come in for his son that way? But like, this was like completely out of bounds, and I can't even fathom doing it.
No, and in fact, it was hard. What's interesting is as the final seconds are ticking off, and everybody's more concentrating at that point about how could the Bucks have lost this game.
Yeah.
You see a couple of camera angles where they're not really talking about what's going on, but you can see something's up with Giannis. He's got a look on his face. He's talking to other people. He's definitely got something that he's PO'd about, and it took a while for everybody to sort of figure out what it was. And in fact, I think shortly after John Halliburton approached him, I thought I saw T.J. McConnell try to settle things. It looked to me like he was trying to be classy about it. I don't know what he said, but it looked to me like he was saying, "Hey, don't listen to that. We don't need any of that stuff." Like, "Hey, man, we got nothing but love and respect for you." I thought that was a nice touch. If that's indeed what he was doing, that's what it looked like at the moment.
Yeah, it did look like that. And I will give Tyrese Halliburton credit afterward.
Yes.
I mean, he owned it and said, "Look, that cannot happen.
Yeah.
My dad was in the wrong. I'm going to reach out to Giannis."
Yeah.
Like all of those things. So once again, Dan, how do we see the kids are the ones that handle it the right way and the parents are not? Like I think that's been a long running trend, especially when it comes to sports. I'm just thinking about, I coached Nita's basketball team and we won some games. I can't just jump it out and talking trash to whatever, fourth grade girl was on the other team that missed a shot or something. That would be a great look. Maybe I'll file that away for a little bit. So.
Maybe in a couple of years you'll get to that point. And again, the guy, you've been around him a lot more than I have, I'm sure. I'm almost touched sometimes by Giannis's earnestness trying to answer these questions. He took 4 minutes in painstaking fashion, but very impressive fashion to try to explain, here's what bugged me about this. Here's my own history. Here's why I don't like this. And even when I disagree with you, he had that famous moment where it was a season of failure, and he talked to that reporter. Yeah. And I may not have agreed with Giannis's conclusion, but again, he was so earnest, I thought, about trying to take the question seriously, and that's why you see of all the people in the entire league, you'd say he's at the bottom of the list if this is who you're going to trash talk,
Absolutely. I mean, he handled it just beautifully. He was incredibly eloquent. People have made the point, which I don't think is a minor one. He is speaking in his second language.
Exactly.
Like the way that he is able to articulate and communicate, he is incredibly intelligent. He has an unbelievable feel for just the world around him. Like that's just who he is. And I have been fortunate enough to talk to him a few times, certainly just watched him over the years. And I cannot respect a player more than him. I mean, he's the ultimate competitor, but he also understands that this is not the be all and end all, that there are greater things going on in the world. And in that moment, when there was so much confusion, and let's face it, he just got eliminated, he's got to be just devastated that they lost, his season is over, and there's all this conversation that's going to happen, what's going to happen with his future with Milwaukee and all of these things. He still has the wherewithal to just calm down in that moment and deliver, an analysis that was emotional, but that was cogent, that was heartfelt, and went all the way through the history of everything he's been through. It was an incredible job, and I kind of liked it because it only makes John Halliburton look like more of a bobo, because it's like, this is the guy you're going after? Really? Like, come on, dude.
Lastly, you had to, on a human level, you had to feel for, was it Gary Trent Jr. who lost the ball near the sideline, a simple pass, a little bit low, you could say, and it goes right through his hands like he's Bill Buckner at first base. in a World Series a long time ago. I mean, that had to be. And he was unbelievable in that game. What did he score? 33 points?
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly where I was going, Dan, is like he played the game of his life to get the Bucks to that point. They're trying to stave off elimination. He has been a good player in this league for quite a while. Local kid, no disrespect to who he is and what he's done. He's been a good player, but this was like his moment. This was just an unbelievable effort, super clutch to help Giannis and to hit big shot after big shot. And in the last moment of truth, to have it happen that way and to have it be such an avoidable thing it's just got to be devastating for him. He did so many things right, and he is still, for all of that, he's still a role player, you would call him. He's not a star.
Right.
And so he had put himself in position to have one of those games, and the Milwaukee fans would call that the Gary Trent game, years later. And to have it go like that, is just a brutal ending to it. That's sports, man. It tears your heart out sometimes.
Agony, thrill of victory, agony of defeat. Right there is no question. That was worthy of that contrast. All right, good luck tonight. I know if the Wolves wrap it up tonight, you intend to trash talk Luka on the court. I can't wait for that video. We'd have a lot of fun with that if that became a story tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So we look forward to it.
That would be like the only thing that could be worse than a parent jumping to it. It'd be like a media member doing it. Like, and Luka would squash me, and I wouldn't blame him for doing it. Well, so I think I'll stay in my seat.
The late great Sid Hartman would never have done something like that. Never. His wildest dreams would even consider something like that. So. We'll be watching tonight. Have fun, my friend. We appreciate the bonus time, and we'll be in touch. Thanks, Johnny.
All right, Dan. Thanks, man.
Always a pleasure. John Krasinski from Los Angeles, California. Wolves, Lakers tonight, right here on the flagship, FM 100.3, The Fan. And Johnny's appearance brought to you by RBC Wealth.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Management.
Man.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It's our national cash contest. The keyword for the 4 o'clock hour is bank. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword bank.
Somebody texts, imagine if Halliburton's dad had gotten into it with the Jokic brothers. That would be interesting.
Yes.
That maybe to a certain extent, sadly, what Halliburton's dad was counting on was, he knows that Giannis is pretty classy. So he feels, it's a shame that because there was maybe less of a fear factor than that there would be if it was Draymond or Bobby Portis or somebody else who's a little edgier, that emboldened him. It's the whole. And look, I understand there was a lot of trash talking going back and forth between the teams, right? I don't think anybody is going to complain about that. I think we all look for some of that edge, right?
It's the playoffs.
It is the playoffs. But this was in a whole different category, and I'm glad Johnny agrees that you need a complete readjustment of rules and a very directive to family members. Ain't about you. Not on the court. It's not your court. You may think you own the court because your significant other or your uncle or your brother or your best friend is the best player on the team, but that doesn't give you the right to have any. Just don't think of the court as yours in that way. We'll be as inviting as we can in the back rooms, and they got hospitality rooms and all that stuff, but that's not for you on the court. Somebody has suggested, I think it was ESPN, that what was his first name? John. I think it's John Halliburton, be banned for a year. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I will say this. A couple people have said, and they're right, if this was a fan
They're out.
They're out for you.
Yes.
Maybe forever. For life.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you. What should the punishment be?
It should be significant, and I don't even think an apology should be enough. And Johnny brings us back to, the localizing the story, and he's right. It got stupid with Ja's dad courtside, and they felt, and even Kat's dad would agree. I don't think he was as demonstrative, quite frankly.
No.
I think they thought this was kind of fun, but it left a bad taste in my mouth. It's like, again, it's not about you, and you're going to get into it with people, and you're going to you're enjoying your viral moment too much. So support your kid, watch your kid, but stop pretending that the story is about you. I got a bunch of texts from people saying, well, we see this obviously at a much lower level in youth leagues all the time.
That's
with
where
parents,
it starts.
There's no question.
Yes.
That's a lot of it.
Yep.
And if your kid is a famous player, like from the time he's 9, and he's already in that spot where he's getting special treatment, then that also, I think, breeds your belief that I'm special too. I'm pretty special too, and I can go in wherever he's going to go. Stop it. Just knock that stuff off. It's just a bad look. All right, let me get to, we were talking about the controversy. I think Fox 9 did the story about a homeowner suing a neighbor and the city of St. Louis Park over a basketball hoop. Interesting text came in, several, reacting to that bit of hoops protocol in which an intervention, I think, is needed. This is from 612 guy who writes, Dan, I live in the house immediately to the south of the basketball hoop dispute in St. Louis Park. You're right to focus on the boys who are the victims. The two brothers are as polite and respectful as you'd hope your own kids are. They have been screamed at by the neighbor who has recorded them, hoping to get evidence that they're hoodlums or something. When the parents asked her not to record their kids, she said she can record, quote, whoever the bleep she wants, end quote, and then called the boys psychopaths. She just doesn't like kids, which was confirmed by a former neighbor who found the mom after this story broke. Apparently, the angry neighbor made life miserable and called the cops on kids playing outside her former neighborhood through a party when they indeed moved. See, and again, there's a part of me that says, I don't want this couple to become such pariahs that people are doxing them and call them up. Here's their phone number.
Totally agree.
That gets crazy, and I think you lose a little bit of the high road. But if you continue to be as public as they are, because this is a public thing now, it's a lawsuit, then to a certain extent you're kind of going to get what you're going to get, because in 2025 we're all connected.
Yep.
And so far, I don't believe they've been willing to speak to any of the reporters covering the story. I don't know if that's going to change.
Right.
But I don't think they have. Do you?
I have not seen anything from them,
In other words, if there's a missing piece here.
Right, because we're only getting the one side right now.
There's no question.
And it's the easy side.
It is. It absolutely is.
Because it is possible it's a little bit more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, it doesn't seem that way. But I go back to, if that text is true, then my original hunch, I think, is accurate. They just don't want neighbors, which isn't practical if you're going to live in a neighborhood.
Not in if you're going to live in St. Louis Park in a neighborhood, that's probably going to be that's going to be a challenge for you.
You may remember the neighbor in our neighborhood from last summer.
Yes.
That it's apparent those people don't want neighbors.
Right.
And it makes no sense to anybody that they continue to live in a neighborhood where they just obviously don't want to be around other people.
Sad but true. Let's do this. Let's pause because we went long with Johnny. I've got some more texts that I want to get to. I want to get back to the Minnesota Wild and their loss last night and some things that Wes Walls had to say. Don't forget, we still have Pat Kessler. He is scheduled to be in studio beginning at about 5.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
30
Fan.
5 at 5 coming up. Kessler will join in studio beginning at about 5:30 this evening. We had among our guests Wes Walls at about 3:30 to review Game 5, give his own analysis on the breakdown on the game-winning goal, and a number of other things. And he gave us a lot of good hockey analysis, I believe. So I'll ask you this question. As we prepare, Game 6 will be tomorrow night. Are we every other night now?
Yeah, 6:30 tomorrow night.
6:30?
Yeah.
Was that a mistake?
6:15 pregame.
We're out 15 minutes early?
I believe so.
Shouldn't Fallness have a longer pregame?
We should probably give him the 5.
I'd say give him 5 to 6:30 if he wants it.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be a problem.
Why not? If not now, when?
If not now, when? So you heard Walls say really the same thing that Russo wrote, which is game to game, this doesn't feel like some of the other first-round playoff exits, that the Wild have not had any clunkers this time. They've won some. They've lost one more than they've won, obviously, but there ain't clunkers. I'll ask you, do you feel any more encouraged despite losing the last 2 games and to a certain extent then losing control of the series on the basis of the fact that we've played them close and we've had opportunities to win? Do you feel any more encouraged? Do you feel as encouraged as Russo seems to sound in terms of his writing, and that Walls did sound when he chatted with us at 3:30?
I do, and I felt that way after Game 4, where it didn't feel like the others, where it felt like the Wild let go of the rope.
Right.
I thought they played well in Game 4 over the weekend on Saturday, right? It was Saturday, I believe, with a 2-1 lead. I didn't think it was a case of them getting comfortable or fat and happy or giving the other team an opening. I felt like it was a great hockey game, and Vegas made a play in overtime. Same thing last night. Even to come back when they really weren't playing all that well. Like, I don't think Kirill played great last night. Obviously, he had the goal, but he had a weird turnover that led to the shorthanded goal. He had a couple of other turnovers where I almost felt like he was too deferential at times. But for Boldy to come back in big knocker fashion with a real big boy goal, a Julius Randle-like bully ball goal, I do this. I'll say it this way: if they lose tomorrow night or if they lose the series, it doesn't to me feel like the other ones where it's like, gosh, they really.
Where are we going?
Where are we going? And they let a big opportunity slip with just kind of a no-show. There haven't been any no-shows, really. Maybe Game 1, they didn't play very well. We talked about it after the point, but the way I framed it after 4 was, to me, it was unfortunate that people were going to frame it as same old Wild, have an opportunity, when, from my vantage point, it was just a really good game that Vegas got the play that they needed at the end and the Wild didn't.
Well, again, that's all true, and that's valid. I think this doesn't have to necessarily foreshadow more of the same. We had a texter yesterday say, even if they lose this series, I still have a more positive feeling based on the young guys emerging, and sort of what we're seeing from this team, that next year there's a better chance to finally break through. But I will still maintain that the object is still to win, and it's to win series. And so I don't blame necessarily people who might say, we're happy for you that it was closer, but there's no close in hockey or basketball playoffs. At some point, you either do it or you don't. And I kind of understand that, especially as we've talked about for years in hockey, where it's not supposed to be this sort of impossible thing for a team that is on paper not quite as good to break through, and actually we're just talking about winning one series. We're not even talking about making a run. So I think it's going to largely, the way I'm going to feel about it will largely depend on how this closes. If they come home, even in a close game, and lose, I'll be shaking my head and say, well, we are in the same boat to a degree. It may look like the future is a little brighter than it was 2 years ago, but my God, I mean, sooner or later you have to take the step, or it's not going to feel to the average Rube, I think, that much progress is being made. Now, let's say they win Game 6, and then it's a highly competitive. Let's say they lose game 7 in OT back there.
Right.
Is that a moral victory? I think the problem the organization has is people aren't in the mood for moral victories. I think even the hockey people who say, I always view this as another mulligan year in a way, because I knew next year was when we're out from Suter Parisi officially. And I always thought that, you just do what you can do this season. But I think for a lot of people, it's still going to be, okay, fine. You can tell me that better things are on the horizon, but I got to see them. Sooner or later, I got to see them. And I don't think it's too much to ask that once a decade, find some way. The other teams seem to routinely beat a superior opponent over a 7-game series.
Well, I will say, I do think they are getting the grace of a little extra patience because of the buyouts, for sure.
Yes.
I think that's probably part of it, too, because you can see it. I mean, you can see it in the depth of Vegas and the lack of depth with the Wild. That's where the buyout stuff hurts you, right?
Well, and that was part of Walls' point, is the number of people who've scored for them in this series
11,
is a lot deeper than the Wild.
But what I'll also say on the same breath as I give that excuse, which is valid, I do think it's valid, that patience will not exist next year.
No, that's going to be...
Because it is almost like a high-interest loan of patience. It's like,
bill's coming due.
We gave you the 5 years. Yeah. We understood why you did it, and we bit the bullet as fans, and we still showed up. That place is still packed. As we said even last year when Guerin did the hand behind your back, I think how I responded was, well, they're not charging hand behind the back prices. Both hands are out front. They're taking the money. It is expensive. And I'm not ripping them for it.
But it's true.
It's just a fact. So that's going to run out next year. So, because I do feel like there's also some preemptive tempering of, well, don't think we're just getting $15 million, because a lot's going to go to Kirill, and then we got to pay some other people here too. It's like, well, no one's going to want to hear that next year.
We got 12 people with no trade clauses, no move clauses.
So no one's going to want to hear that next year.
No.
Like next year, there is going to be a lot more of it.
It'll be ramped up for sure.
Attention. Yeah. So you'd almost want to bank a little bit more equity in stealing a series or two.
Well, here's the other thing. I'll tell you what, I'll save it for top 5 because I don't want to lose too much time. As I mentioned, Kessler in the 5 o'clock hour. What are we going to get into?
In the top 5?
Correct.
Wolves, Wild, Twins.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.